Detail-oriented people, that's who I like to work with. I'm kidding. So when I answered this question, I said, I love working with people that have energy. I love people that are loyal, that are trustworthy, that are consistent, that have the company's best interest at heart. They're disciplined, they're into personal growth, they're bought in, and they're believers. So rate your scale. So now you would go in and you say, like, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How close are you to being surrounded by people you love working with? And so you're going to go back to that hokey little drawing that you did and figure it out. So for context, I'm an 8. So I'm on the upper end of this, but until Spencer's gone, then I'm never going to hit that 10. We got a problem. Yeah, we're actually kicking off this People Analyzer. Did we throw the People Analyzer in here by any chance? Into the deck? Yes, great. That's what it was. So there's really 2 tools right here. One is called the People Analyzer. And look, this is something we actually do in our whole organization on a quarterly basis. So again, like, I'm a real big believer in rhythms and real big believer in meetings having a consistent cadence. And so when we think about the People Analyzer, the goal is for us to really answer 8 questions about each person. The first one is, the first 5 for us is, are they a positive / negative, or a negative on each one of our 5 core values. And so we'll go through those core values and say, rate Spencer on, do the right thing. Spencer's a positive. Embrace the grind. Spencer's a positive. So we go through all of our 5 core values and rate each team member. So the manager will rate each team member on that. And then the next thing we'll do is we will go to what we call the GWC portion of that and say, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And then we'll rate them on that same scale. I think there's just a plus minus generally but we found that plus and then adding the middle one, the plus and minus together, kind of like in the middle, actually gets better feedback. So that's just something for y'all to think about on the GWC portion. So when I think of somebody that gets it, somebody that understands what you're trying to do, like cognitively, they understand whether it's the mission of the organization or the mission of the role. That's the idea of the get it. Want it. I may get the idea of why somebody would climb Mount Everest, but I may not want to climb Mount Everest. And so you may have somebody that cognitively completely understands what they need to do to be successful, but they may not have the want to go out and do that. And so that's that second one. And then the capacity to do it. So when I think about Mount Everest, I may get it. I may know, hey, it would be awesome to get to the top of Mount Everest. I may want it with every fiber of my being, but if I have, if I'm like not capable of walking, let's say I'm in a wheelchair, like it is impossible for me to go to the top of Mount Everest, right? And so some people like are just not wired to run that position. What's interesting about this is what you really need, like you're basically analyzing somebody like in a subjective way, like it's your opinion, but you as the leader are trying to be as objective as possible. What we have found is when you rate people a lot of plus minuses and a lot of minuses, remember 5 core values, then get it, want it, capacity to do it. What we have found is those are the energy suckers in our organization. They may be an energy sucker just because of their attitude, but they may be an energy sucker just because they're not doing a good job. And so I'm having to do my job plus that job. And so we do this on a quarterly basis, and then we share the feedback with the team member. I think there's this great story out there of a baseball player a number of years back, and he was the general manager, which is kind of like a step above the coach, is the person that puts the team together. The general manager called him to his office, and he arrived at the general manager's office before the general manager got there. and he was looking at the wall, and there was a bookshelf, and there was a bunch of names on big binders. And he saw his name, so he went and grabbed the binder, and he started flipping through it. And one of the things he realized was that they didn't think he was very good at hitting curveballs, and they didn't think he was really good at turning double plays. This was a middle infielder. And what frustrated him was that nobody ever told him that's what they thought about him. And he said, if I had known that information, I would have worked harder on hitting curveballs. I would have worked harder on turning double plays and gotten those weaknesses shored up. And I think we as leaders have a responsibility to share this information with our team, share this information where they're falling short, because anytime you terminate somebody, it should not be a surprise to them. They should understand that they're not cutting it. So, but what this will naturally do is it'll bring people up to the level of your expectations, and that'll give you some less HR related brain damage, Jason. Or sometimes they just recognize that they're if they don't have the capacity to do it, or they don't have the want to, then they end up leaving the organization, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I would say the only other comment I would say here is if you're currently in an organization and maybe there's some politics involved, or this is very tough to do. You really need there needs to be a sense of transparency and trust on your team, and this will help develop that. When you can have these conversations with people and say, hey, listen, I went through this role and I was as objective as I possibly could be, and this was the result. I remember when we first started doing this, what we would do also, Matthew, is as we were doing it as a group maybe when our team was really small, and we would literally ask for examples. Like if somebody gave somebody a minus, we would say, well, why did you give that person a minus? Let's be very objective about it. It can't be, well, I just feel this way about them. I have this feeling about them. That's not the way it is. It needs to be as objective as possible. And again, building trust with your team and transparency does take time if you don't have it. So, but this will absolutely help that.